Here we are in Galt Collective.
Yeah,
I'm
welcome.
with Eric Silveira, and we're just going to have a chat. We've met a couple times. You've got a real interesting story, and I thought it's a story worth sharing. So
Thank you very much. Welcome.
yeah, that's what we're going to do
Cool.
today.
Happy to share.
So it's a really, really cool space you have here.
Thank you.
I love it. And
Thank you.
So why don't we just start with that and tell me, how did you get this co-working space, and
Yeah.
where did the ideas come from, and
Yeah.
who did the fabulous design in here?
Thanks. Yeah. So Galt Collective is what we call it, and it's a co-working and event space here in Cambridge. I had been following these co-working spaces and the trend that we're seeing more of them anyways, and I'd been kind of interested in it and the idea of bringing people together to work. And I saw that work was changing. People were solo entrepreneurs, they were working on a remote team, or specifically hired for a specific task, and so they weren't part of a big corporation anymore, and they were kind of doing their own thing. And I thought, man, wouldn't it be cool to create something like this in our community where we can bring some of these talented people together, work together, share a kitchen and coffee and hang out and cross paths and encourage and push each other and challenge each other to be better at what we do. And so that's kind of some of the thinking that was in behind it. Previous or currently, we also have a creative design business called Lucid Digital Media, and we had started working with some freelancers and some other people as we grew that business. And I thought, man, it would be so neat to start pulling even some of these creatives together and just see what happens out of that. And some people said, man, you're nuts. Like, why would you want your competition working next door or down the hall from you? And I don't really see it that way. I see there's more value in working together on some of this stuff.
Collaboration rather than competition.
100%.
Now, it's funny when you say this, I look and say, a lot of people are working from home in the last few years. I know I've tried it, and it didn't really work for me. So was that the genesis of this for you, because I know you've got some kids and busy lifestyle at home and all that stuff?
So we have 3 kids at home, and so life's busy at home, and I thought, I could maybe have some more free time if I work at home a little bit and try to make that work. And I just found it didn't really work for me. I need to go to work. I need to go to a place, sit down, okay, I'm gonna work, and I wanna go home and I wanna be at home, and I wanna be present there as well. And I felt like trying to do both in one place wasn't working for me. And then, if you need to meet with people, do they meet at your house or do you meet at a coffee shop? And so it's kind of a little unprofessional. We're trying to bring a few of those things together, and we're not a coffee shop. So it's a little quieter in here usually. It's a little more professional. We've got a boardroom that you can book if you need private meetings, that kind of thing. But we're also not that corporate office environment either.
It was kind of funny because you look and say, I understand the need to separate work and family life. And sometimes that line gets pretty blurred. But also you mentioned, you have kind of an isolation from the big corporations, so collaboration doesn't happen. Because you're always isolated, or you're going to a coffee shop, and so it makes it awkward.
The more people that I meet in here, and the people that are coming here that are so interested in this, are people that have found that working on their own doesn't work. It sounds really good in theory, and you think, this is awesome, I'll be autonomous and I can do this and that. But I think we've been made to be in community, and I think that that's so critical. And so I really think we're going to see even more of a resurgence into something like this, where you've got maybe working on your own, but you're in community with other people.
I think that sense of community is really important.
For sure.
As humans, we're community minded.
100%.
The other thing I look at and think about is that, is it a hard transition for you to be in digital media and then working from home, and then all of a sudden say, I'm going to have this shared workspace? And how did you come to this? Because really, how many other shared workspaces are there in Cambridge or in southern, southwestern Ontario?
There's not that many, and they started in bigger cities, so in the States and in Toronto and some of these bigger kind of hubs. And I wasn't sure that it would work here, but it was kind of I thought it was going to work. I did some research the best I could, and I talked to some people, and everyone said, "Oh, it sounds like a great idea." And finally, I just said, "I got to pull the trigger on this and try it." And so that's kind of how it started. And it was also kind of my background in graphic design and video production, that kind of thing, lent itself actually to even the design of this space. It was another neat creation project that I got to be part of.
So did you do the design
I
on
did
it?
most of it, yeah. So, I had a couple people that we needed an architect or whatever to stamp drawings and all that kind of jazz. But, it was primarily me going out, looking at things, dreaming up ideas, and then actually just kind of mocking some stuff up and pulling some inspiration, and then coming up with a floor plan and how we're going to furnish it and what's it going to look like and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was a collaboration, but I really actually enjoyed bringing that creative process into making a space that we wanted to be in, and a space that I walk in the doors and I'm inspired to work here. And it's really hard to kind of put your finger on what is it, but I don't know. The light, the space, the people around here too is incredible.
Yeah, everything about it, you come in and you have, there's a real sense of warmth to it, and comfort.
Yeah.
You come in and you feel, I like it in here.
I think one of the other things that I've really tried to focus on, and I think is one of our key things that has made this work, is a level of authenticity, and that we're not a big, huge corporation that's like, hey, this makes financial sense. We're going to do this because this is the trend, and we can make a lot of money at this. I did this because I wanted to be here.
Yeah.
I did this because I thought this might be a great spot to work and live, and and so it's real, and it's not me going to a catalog saying I'll take one of these and 5 of these, and what's trending now. It was me, choosing the wood we were going to use for the tabletops and having the legs fabricated, and then me putting it all together and staining it, and so it's real. And I hope that people appreciate that part of it, that we've got a lot of entrepreneurs that are coming in here and they're doing the same thing with their business, and they're trying to make it happen, and they're doing it, and it's so cool that they appreciate what I've put into this, and hopefully I can encourage them to continue going at what they're doing.
Yeah, it's really important as an entrepreneur. You have to be very passionate about what you're doing, and your passion about this place comes through in spades.
Right. Yeah.
But I want to go back to something you said. You're not a big financial corporation. You look and go, should I do it? Should I not do it? You finally pull the trigger on it. That had to be nerve-wracking as an entrepreneur. A lot of money to outfit a place like this. And
it was.
Did it take time to get the space rented, or was it
we
well
were
received?
really surprised.
How did it happen?
It went really better than we expected, I'd say. I've got a fantastically supportive wife who gets behind me in some of these crazy ideas that I have. So that's key.
Critical.
Critical to keep home and all that balanced. And she got it, and she was like, "Hey, I think you got a good idea.
Yeah.
And why don't we try it?" And it was kind of out of that this started to go. And I started, exploring different things and asking questions, and you get to this point where it's like, okay, I think we got something here. It's not for sure, but we've done as much research as I feel we needed or could do at the time. And I think it makes sense. And I talked to some people, business minds and stuff that I hang out with or know, and they're like, well, yeah, it sounds like it might work. And then you just go for it.
Yeah, you just have to pull the trigger at some point. But it's always nerve-wracking. But now, your background in Lucid must have made the transition a whole lot easier.
For sure.
You knew how you were going to promote it. You knew what you were going to do to showcase the space, and where you were going to try and get tenants. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I mean, this wasn't my first venture. So with Lucid, I learned a lot in just even starting a business and having employees, and how the stuff you need to do to run an operation. And so I didn't start from scratch when we started this. So there was some of that to pull from. And then the stuff that we do with Lucid was a great complement to this. So yeah, like you said, in promoting it, in getting the word out there, even a bunch of our contacts, it was easy to go to and say, hey, why don't you come meet us in our new office space? And then they walk in and they're like, oh wow, this is really cool. And then, people started we got more business because we were in here. And then, now some of the tenants that are in here, we've started working with, and it's just been really neat to see that kind of.
So some of the tenants become clients, and vice versa.
Yeah,
Is
and
it
I've been
two-way?
It is, and I've really wanted to make this intentional. Some of the places that I've toured and looked at before, where, okay, you're going to become a member, and that means this. We're going to help you with this. We're going to provide you these services, and you're going to do this for the other members. And I didn't want that. I wanted this to be a little bit more organic, that I wanted to provide the soil, for a cheesy example, but I wanted to provide some soil that people could come and start to grow in.
Yeah.
And these are hungry entrepreneurs that are making it happen.
Right.
And I think that's kind of, if you're meeting and talking, stuff happens, and you'll be amazed at some of these conversations that you have. And it's like, you know what, that helps me. We've had it that one of the people in here could provide a better service for our client than we could as a company.
Right.
And so I'd be crazy not to refer that work to that person and pull them in for it, because at the end of the day, our client's going to get a better product. And that helps the person that we're sharing office space with. And so it's...
Well, and the reality is, if we look at business,
Yeah.
from a very simple point of view, every single one of our clients, if we can help them grow their business,
Totally.
they're going to stay with us for a long time.
Absolutely.
So to me, it's always been about growth.
Yeah.
And if you can use some of your tenants to help grow your client's business,
Exactly.
Everybody in that scenario wins.
It's amazing. And, it's been, it's been great even just to expand our circle of influence, or the people that we know, and meeting people. We had no idea who these people were in our community, like right here in our backyard. And now we're kind of hanging out and grabbing coffee or a beer and saying, hey, what are you doing? Like, neat. And so it's just, I think I really see a lot of potential in this kind of a work environment, and I think it's going to be great for our city as a whole.
So you see synergies amongst the tenants that is starting to really develop and really pay dividends to all people.
Yeah, and I think it's something that, like I said, I didn't want to rush or force, and I wanted it to happen on its own.
You didn't want to be WeWork.
I didn't want to be WeWork, and I didn't want to make it artificial. I wanted it to be real and authentic, and so, it's taken time. So I think we could have maybe sped the process up a little bit, but I wanted it to evolve.
How long have you been at it now?
So we're getting close to 2 years.
2 years, yeah.
2 years from when we opened our doors. It was about a 6-month build out or so. And then we opened the doors, and it was like, okay, are people going to come?
Yeah.
And so people started walking in and saying, yeah, you know what, I'll take an office, or I'd like to shoot something in here, or have meetings. And so it started to go. And I think, it was probably about 6 months before we were full.
Right.
And full being the offices were all booked out. We've got a wait list now, and we've got, a little bit more room for community memberships, which would be people that just come in and work kind of 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. But yeah, it went really quick, actually, surprisingly.
That's great. I'll tell you, the first time I walked in here, I came in for a coffee.
Okay, yeah.
Because someone told me there's a really good coffee shop, down on the other side of the Grand. So I came in, and I'm looking in through the window. I'm going, what's this? What is that? I love the doors and the windows. Everything is really, really, cool.
Yeah.
And I looked inside and I see people working, and I go, what's going on with that? So
Totally.
now, is the coffee shop part of your?
No, so the coffee shop is not. They're a separate business, and I knew that we needed some kind of food service element to this, that we needed to be close to something like that, but I didn't want to get into a liquor license or, all that kind of stuff. You would know very well.
Yeah.
And when we started exploring this property, I knew that a coffee shop was coming in, and I knew that they had other locations that I was quite fond of, and thought, they're going to do something great here. And so that's been a really nice compliment. So they're just right across the hall. So we get that question a lot, like, are you the same company or not? Because even some of the design cues and stuff are very similar. So it looks quite seamless. It feels
very similar between the two places. Like it's like an integrated space,
And I think it's been good for both of us. We're obviously patrons of their establishment, but then they give us visibility, and we've done events and stuff like that for them, and so there's a lot of kind of cross-pollination there, and
that's great.
It's been really key.
The other thing you said a minute ago, you talked about expansion, and when you and I met a couple of weeks ago at the chamber, you were talking about you're thinking about expanding this. Tell us a bit about that.
So I think I've learned a lot, no question, and I want to apply that learning to our next location. I see huge potential. Like I said, we've got a wait list, which is amazing. And so when I see, as an entrepreneur, I think as I see potential, I want to explore it and I want to
Right.
pursue it. And so right now I'm looking at other options as far as where and how much space and what does it need to look like and what could we improve on or what should we change. I think the biggest key that I'm really struggling with right now, and you'd be a good one to talk to about this, is when you have something that's so community or personal, you know, where you know the people that are there and it's a very community-minded thing, how can you replicate that successfully? Can you bring what you have here, that same feel, into another location, or are you starting to spread yourself too thin? And that's what I really want to explore before I jump into that next spot.
And that's always a challenge.
Yeah.
I mean, so I know in our case, you know, when we went from St. John's to Halifax, you know, our first foray into a second location, it was kind of nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
We didn't know people in that community.
Right.
We didn't know. We were going from a 150-year-old building to a brand spanking new building.
Different, yeah.
And you look and say, how do you create that same warmth and stuff?
Yeah.
But, you know, you've got a lot of brand elements in here that will travel with you, even if the space is different.
Right. Totally.
I'm really confident in what you're
you.
going to do. That you're going to have that same brand feel. You're going to have that same sense of community.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I think the challenge will be finding the space that you're as passionate about.
Totally.
For
Yeah,
unit 2 that you are for unit 1.
Totally. I fell in love with the building
Yeah.
and the space. And like I said, we did a lot of the construction. So, I mean, it was crawling around in the dirt, pulling network cables. And it was that kind of love affair with this property. And I mean, again, it's so critical to, you got to feel and enjoy the space you're in.
Yeah.
And so, I've got a pretty good hankering on that next location.
So you were saying when I asked you what made you pull the trigger, you said you're a supportive wife,
Yeah.
you know, nice space, you knew the
Yeah.
coffee shop was coming. What's the trigger for the next one?
I think it's going to be putting enough structure in place that I don't spread things too thin, like time and energy, and because I know it's a high energy kind of commitment to something like this. So I need to make sure that I've got some structure in place to support Lucid and the things that we've got going on there, because there's a lot of exciting things going on there as well, which is fun. But then even just to keep the emotion and the energy level up for another space and keep this one, you know, so I got to get some structure in place.
Right.
And I think that's going to be the big thing. When I kind of have a sense that obviously the right property and the right idea, the model, once I have the structure in place, I think then it's going to be time to make it happen and give it a go.
Yeah.
And
Structure's really difficult.
And I
Like,
think
you think you've got it right now.
Yeah.
And what I learned is that even though you think you got it all done and gone, and then you go into another location, and then if you go to a third location, the structure that you thought was working in the second doesn't work as well in the third. You know.
And I think one of the other interesting things is I really love a challenge. And so, you know, some people walk in and they go, oh, of course this is going to work. Well, no, it wasn't, of course. It was like, okay, there were a lot of things that we had to figure out and work through and challenges. And I actually love the process. And so, you know, I think another location, I hope it goes well. And I think there's enough of a opportunity that there's a good potential that it will go well. But it's still going to be a challenge. It's still going to be learning, changing, modifying, and working the plan. And I get super excited about that. Even. Like just what are the roadblocks we're going to come up against and how we're going to work through those or navigate those.
Well, those roadblocks, you know, your personality just tells me you're just going to get through them somehow.
Some way.
Doesn't matter what they are. I know you're going to get beyond them, and that's really important. Do you find that you know, small, you know, medium-sized business type thing, when you go to expand, are you getting good support from the financial institutions, or are they challenging your model and your expansion?
Fortunately, I haven't had to go that route. I'm not like independently wealthy or anything, but I think we've, with Lucid, because I'd been thinking about this for a while, we started socking some money away. So Lucid was what funded this space.
Oh, perfect.
And so we didn't need to go into debt, like crazy debt or anything like that to pull this off, thankfully. And then when it worked, we didn't have to have, so I mean, we had some options available if we needed to explore them. So we haven't had to go that way. I sat down with the bank a while back, and it was like, okay, well, you're going to need to give us this and this and this, and we're not sure. And once we kind of get into those things, I think I could probably now, with the experience I have and the track record, I think I could paint a good enough scenario that they'd say, okay. And we'll see if I need to go that way, depending on what we do next. But I mean, I think we didn't bite off more than we could chew to start.
Yeah.
It was ambitious, no question, and it wasn't a guaranteed thing, but I think we had kind of planned for it in advance, so we could take this step and this risk and support it. And so, I'm not sure what the next one's going to look like.
That's the ideal way to do it.
Yeah.
And if you can do that for your expansion, that's fantastic. So we talked about expanding the co-work space. Tell me about Lucid.
Yeah.
I'm sure you must have expansion plans for that as well.
Yeah, I mean, we have been at it for a little over 12 years, I guess. Started small, just myself, and then as I got too busy, I started bringing on other people. And it was a really neat thing. I never thought that, I didn't know what I was going to do when I grew up. And it was like, hey, I fell into this kind of, and I thought, hey, here's an opportunity. And so it started growing, and I thought, you know what? I can't do all these things well because photography, graphic design, video, some web, these are things that I like and that I knew we could do, and I couldn't do them all well. So then it was like, how, if we grow, maybe we could get specialists and people that are really good at these things and bring this team again together. And so that was kind of how Lucid started to grow, and we started taking on projects. And once you had a bit of a portfolio, then you could show that to other people, and then people said, oh, you did work for there, I like what you did here, and then that started to grow. And we make a really clear distinction that we're not a marketing agency, so we work a lot with other marketing agencies, so we're more kind of doing the work and the creative and
you're on the creative side,
creative end of
you
things.
let them do that.
And we build things and make things. And we work with a lot with corporations that have maybe marketing managers, or they'll have a campaign that they want to do, but they don't have the actual in-house people to execute the plan. And so that's where we come into play. And so, we've steadily grown, and I think we're right in a phase now where there's a lot of opportunity as business changes with social media and the use of video, and there's just so many neat things for us to explore. And I've got a new kind of reinvigorated passion to kind of pursue more of that. So I think it's going to be, again, it's this community team thing that I think is so central to what I believe in or what I want to do, but it's getting that right team together. And when you have that right team, it's really cool, the projects that you can work on. And like I said, you do one here, and then word gets out and other people come, and we haven't really had to do much in the way of sales as a company. I think we've been at it long enough that we've got a bit of a track record, and thankfully some of the work's just continued
your reputation
on.
is what's bringing in the next piece of work for you.
Yeah, so
which is really good. Does most of your work come from this region, or do you go outside of?
That's where it started. Most of it started with contacts and people that I knew initially in this Cambridge area, and then they were connected to other people, and then it started to grow down the 401 to Toronto and around. So we've done some international work for bigger corporations. Oh, nice. It's a pretty good mix. I'd say probably 50% of our work is the kind of KW local area, Southwestern Ontario region, and then the other half would be kind of larger corporation kind of stuff.
Right. You mentioned that your video's coming back into play, and we see it in our business, and I know our team is moving more into video because we weren't doing any of it. And now all of a sudden we're going away from the static, posts and Instagram to much more video. And it seems to video's getting a lot more traction on social media than it used to.
Yeah, and I think one of the interesting things that I think I'm seeing is people are more interested in longer conversation or a better understanding of something now. So we went from making these long videos to how short can we possibly make it? It's got to be super succinct, super short, super small. But I think we're now starting to see the times of stuff, people's attention actually start to grow when the content's really good. So if you have a compelling enough story or enough good content to share, people are really interested in that and consume it. And so I think we're actually going to start to see the growth of longer videos, and so it's interesting.
And
to
how
kinda
long would you
navigate
say? Like,
I don't know. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it was back in the day. I mean, when we started, it was like 7-8 minutes for something,
Right.
and now then it was like all the way down to like, hey, it's got to be done in a minute, maybe
Right.
30 seconds if you can do it, and now it's kind of back to that like, hey, yeah, people will watch something 2-3 minutes. But then you start getting into podcasts and stuff, and people
Right.
are sitting and listening to something for 3 hours.
I know.
And it's like, wow, that's engaging and it's interesting. And so I'm not sure where we're going to land.
Yeah.
But and the other thing too is with social media now, you can find stuff that you're really interested in and really kind of geek out in that area, in
Right.
that space. So it's neat. It's not for everybody. There's different nuances and applications for it. But yeah, it's something to explore for sure.
Yeah, well, that's going to keep you busy at
think
Lucid
so.
for sure.
I think so.
And your expansion, do you have any timelines on the
Yeah.
co-work space for the next one?
I think it's probably a year and a half, 2 years out. Probably in a year, I'll probably have a pretty good handle on what the steps are going to need to take place to make
Right.
it happen. And the property that we're quite excited about, potentially kind of establishing in, is coming along, and so there's some work to be done there. So there's a number of steps that have to happen, but I think probably we're looking at them build out. So year and a half, 2 years is probably when hopefully doors will open.
Well,
if it goes
one
well.
of the things we're going to have to do, we're going to have to agree now that I'm going to come and see you in a year,
Please do.
a year and a half, and
Please
see
do.
where that is.
Please do. I'd love to.
Probably the last, kind of wrap up
Yeah.
for me to ask you is that I look and say, you're really focused on one sense of community, authenticity, but small entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
entrepreneurs like you,
Yeah.
myself, yourself, it's always a challenge. It's always hard work.
Yeah.
What would you say to entrepreneurs now that are looking to grow their business
Yeah.
and try and make that transition from working in their house to
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing I'd rather do than this. It can be a scary or a big step, but I think, if you've got like an inkling that you might want to try doing your own thing or starting something, I think you got to start exploring it and, talking to people about it, trying little test runs if you can, even to prove that this works or that you're interested enough, because sometimes you might get down the road and think, yeah, it's not what I was thinking. And it's better to turn back at that point.
Yeah.
And, you'll talk to some people that can write out some amazing idea, and then when it comes to the practical of actually doing it, they're out.
Right.
And it's like, well, it's still a lot of hard work. So I think if you take a few small steps to test the
Yeah.
theory, the model, yourself even, to like, hey, am I ready for this?
Right.
Knowing that it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be more effort than you think. It's going to be roadblocks and challenges. But, I mean, again, there's nothing else that is as exciting. I mean, to be able to dream something up and pursue it or to try it. I mean,
Yeah.
instead of just having someone tell you what to do.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a balance. Not everybody's
And-
cut out for it.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's very true, because it's a certain individual that is willing to take the risks
Yeah.
and put in the efforts,
For sure.
and have to have that perseverance to keep
sure.
going when you hit another.
And the support
roadblock.
structure behind them, I think, too.
Yeah,
For
exactly.
sure.
That's
Yeah.
important. So one of the things that I noticed from this conversation, and I've experienced as an entrepreneur, you've made the barrier to joining really low.
Right.
Because it doesn't cost a lot.
Yeah.
In the old days, or even last year, I had to sign a 12-month lease, and
Right.
I look and go, do I really want to do that? No.
Yeah.
But I still want that sense of community. I want, a backboard, a sounding board,
Yeah,
and
for
you've
sure.
created that here.
Yeah.
And for entrepreneurs, that's got to be like.
And that's one of the really neat things that we can offer people. And, that you can have a seat at the table here. It doesn't cost you that much. We'll provide the coffee even. But you get to be in an environment where you've got other people that are trying things out, that are doing their own thing, that you can start encouraging and helping each other. And I can't tell you how many times I've come in early morning and I'm grabbing a coffee and someone else is getting a coffee, and the conversation that comes out of that directly relates to a challenge or something I'm working through, or
Right.
influences my thinking on something, which is amazing. That sharpens me and helps me.
Yeah.
And so if we have other people that are trying or exploring, work in a different way or a new
Right.
venture or whatever, I think this is a great environment to
And there's an energy to that
Yeah,
as well
totally.
that you
it's
can't
inspiring
get
to
working
me.
at home.
Totally, too. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's, I find it just amazing. I love what you're doing.
Thank you very much.
And like I said, I want to come and see you in a year's
Yeah.
time, see how the expansion
Absolutely,
And I want to know when you're coming to St. John's, Newfoundland.
Yeah, invite me down and I'll take a look and we'll have pizza.
That's a
Sounds
deal.
good.
Yeah, thanks so much. I
Thank
really
you,
enjoyed
Brian.
it. Yeah,
Thank you
take
so
care.
much.
All the best.
Thank you.